how did that guilt and shame manifest? Like, where did that come from? And
Okay.
how was seeing your stepmother being an affair partner? Like, I think people will look at it and be like, well, obviously she taught you how to be an affair partner. I don't think that that is true.
No,
But I
that's
want to
not.
know, like, now that we know about this like internalized process that people undergo in making these decisions, how did you see that in her? How did you see her emotional and mental state?
I saw a woman who it's interesting. People want me to say that my relationship was either with my stepmom was either unicorns and rainbows or
Hmm.
like the fucking evil villain from Disney, you know? And
Yeah.
it's neither one of those things, you know? It's an actual relationship with a parent and guardian that loved me and
Hmm.
was a human with her own complexities. So I will start with that.
Hmm.
But I saw my stepmom, the way that I had observed some of the, like, internalized shame that she had had was, like, she never sang. She loved music, loved to go to concerts, but would
Hmm.
never sing. And, as I got to know her over the years, I had asked her, like, "Why what is going on? Like, why can't you just sing out loud with us?" Like, I wanted to sing Red Solo Cup at a Christmas thing that we were at my
Hmm.
house, and we decorated the tree with red Solo Cups. It was very funny. She
Hmm.
wouldn't sing. And it finally, like, kind of came out that when she was really young, her mom had told her that she had just the worst voice. And so over years, she never allowed herself to hear herself sing out loud. And I knew that she loved music. I knew that,
Yeah.
she had a real soft spot for music, but she could never express herself in that way and feel comfortable, you know? And I think that there's a lot to say about generations before my own. They didn't have access to resources the way that I did when I was growing
Yeah.
up. So a lot of that just kind of sticks around and stays with them. And so then it came, my relationship with her was, can I accept her and value her for the way that she is right now in this moment? Like, can I actually love her for who she is?
Right.
And once I got to that place, like, everything got so good. But I think when you have great insecurities, you have great inability to live authentically. And I think that definitely led her to a place where she actually had passed away in 2021 from COVID, and she never had the chance to retire. Like, and
Wow.
that was something that was like that happiness thing being in the future, right?
Yeah.
It was still in the future for her. And she never got to reach it. Now, do I think that
Mhm.
she is at peace and all of that now? Yes, I do. Do I
Mhm.
think that she could have gotten a little bit more out of life? Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that the internalized shame, at least in my experience, has been how caregivers speak to their children
Mhm.
and religion. I think that religion had me in a place, or I won't say religion in and of itself, it was my grip on
Mhm.
religion. I remember like a couple of years before the affair, I had said out loud, I said, it seems like the most pointless question for anybody to ask is the question why. And my ex at the time looked over, he was like, "Why would you say that?" And I was like, "Well, because if God already knows everything that's going to be happening, who are we to challenge his will?" And it was such an ignorant
Mm.
statement to say. Now that,
Mhm.
like, I'm 20 years out from a lot of major life events, it was such an ignorant statement to say and such an easy deflect to not understanding how my behavior impacted my own life,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a really revelational.
Speaking of religion, like I'd recently seen your video about the stander, I think you called
Oh,
it.
yeah.
The how like the woman, the ex-wife, because at this point they were divorced, just
Yes.
believed that God would restore her marriage with her ex-husband, and this other woman was like feeling insecure about that. But I guess I just, religion has played such a huge role in my life as well, and just kind of like getting as far away as I can from that because it
Mhm.
had such a hold on me and was like preventing me from like becoming the person I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So how did you escape that yourself? How did you like
I
abandon that for
I
yourself?
started to break down what I really valued about
Mhm.
my participation in religion. And for me, it
Mhm.
really came down to community. What I really valued out of my religious practices were the community that I had myself around. Now,
Mhm.
what made them so special, other than that we had a common thread, which was our religious practice. And
Mhm.
then I started to see that I could develop communities that weren't just inside of a church. They could be at work. They could be when I took on like new hobbies and stuff. That was really how I started to see things. I started to see that like church is almost packaging for communities, and
Yeah.
communities are essentially people who bond over a common interest.
Mhm.
So, why couldn't I meet that want and that need in another and albeit healthier way? And
Mhm.
so that's how I slowly started to do that. And then I started to actually open up my own purview of what information was out there about the things that I sought to understand by
Mhm.
way of religion. And that's what led me to a lot of psychology books and a lot of stories. Like, I really just needed to hear other people's stories to know that I was a little bit less alone in my
Absolutely.
existence.
Right.
So I had listened to a ton of podcasts, and I no longer discriminated against others based on their religion. You know, it
Mhm.
was almost like indoctrinated into me to fear. Well, I mean, I think it's just being a human, you fear what you don't understand. And
Mhm.
so I would have never sat down and had a conversation with somebody who was from a different religion than me with an open mind. And now I can. Like, there was this really powerful video that I saw a while ago, and say you get to heaven's gates and
Mhm.
God asks you, so what did you learn about Buddhism? And and I'm at heaven's gates and I look at God and I say, what do you mean? I'm Christian, the only way, the truth and the light. And they
Yeah.
go, no, 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 I understand that, but why don't you know anything about Buddhism? And it's like, well, why would I? All of these excuses. And then
Mhm.
God looks at you and says, well, I put so and so in your path. What did you learn from them? And
Mhm.
it was such a powerful story for me to hear because it really was, a long narrative on like how we package people in these different labels and stuff. And what's really at the core is probably the most important piece.
Yeah, that's really, really fascinating to me. I think a lot of people who are kind of like mired in that world just don't, because it's just like so regimented, and there's like a system and you have to just follow it strictly, and that's
It's
how you
another
get to
social
heaven.
construct.
Yeah,
And
so
this
they're not going
whole
to go outside
TikTok
of that.
journey right, and this whole TikTok journey has actually led me to a lot more, like, difficult places in my mind to grapple with, but
Mhm.
there's one man that I met on here, and he was like, "It's a social construct, like religion, social construct, all of these
Mhm.
things," and I'm like, "Oh my god, like, I have been fooled."
Yeah. I think
None
we
of
all
it's
have.
perfect. Yeah, we've
Right.
all been
We all
fooled, yeah.
have. I want to know, what before you had an affair, what
Mhm.
were your thoughts on affairs? How did you evolve in any
I
way? Like,
I thought that there was no way I would ever cheat, especially not on my ex.
I
And
remember you
that's
saying that in one video too. You never thought you would be that twisted as well as how the person put it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I was like they were like, "Oh, I could never be as twisted as being the other woman." And I was like,
right.
"I
You're
fucking
like,
thought
don't
that
fall off
shit
that high
too."
horse,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Very detrimental.
Yeah.
No, but my understanding of infidelity was, and I actually think that because my parents never talked about the affair, it
Mhm.
only set me up for, even more of a potential to engaging in an affair, right? Because
Mhm.
at the core of it, it's lacking coping skills, lacking communication skills. Definitely talking about our feelings in my family was not a fucking,
No.
it wasn't enjoyable for anybody. So, yeah, I don't know. When I was a kid, I thought that our parents just fell in love and that was
Mhm.
it, and that's the only thing that we were fed. What I didn't, well, this is kind of funny. This is going to be This is going to end up on the podcast. So, like, maybe Kevin will cut it out. But maybe not. Who knows? He's probably going to convince me to keep it in. When my parents, so like this was just a couple of years ago, I asked my dad, I said, "Hey, why did you cheat?" And
Oh,
he goes,
wow.
"What?" And I go, "Yeah, like, because I've been talking about this business with him and whether he thinks it's a good idea or not. I still
Mhm.
am not waiting for his approval, but I
Right.
do want to hear his thoughts on it." And he had said, "What do you mean? I've never cheated." And I was like, "Bullshit." And he
Wow,
goes,
interesting.
"Oh." He goes, "Oh, you're talking about that?" And I'm like, "There was definitely an affair going on for multiple
Yeah.
years. Okay, like, let's get fucking real here." And he goes, "That was a completely different situation. We had unproductive partners." And I was like, wrong. No, no, the decision
Wow.
to cheat is not about the spouse, but okay,
Right, right.
good to know that's what you believe, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's so
So
interesting.
my understanding of infidelity at a young age was that it happened, but it happened to very few people. I didn't think that it was as rampant as it
Mhm,
actually is.
mhm.
And I thought that definitely the cheater was to blame for everything, for
Yeah.
absolutely everything.
Mhm.
And like, I'm not about to say that it's somebody else's fault that they get cheated on. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say here. I always feel like I have to fucking back up my own thoughts, but you get it. But yeah, that was basically what I thought. I didn't think much of it.
That actually segues pretty nicely into something I wanted to make sure I talked about on your podcast, because I think anyone who goes back to my comments and your reply to them
Uh-huh.
might question why I said this. I wanted to make it very clear. So, in you saying, like, you definitely don't attribute it to anyone other than the person who cheated. And something I've talked about with like some friends who were cheated on, and something that I've just kind of led to believe too, is I want to be really careful about this because it could sound very bad very quick. I think that, of course, the wrongdoing is completely attributed to the person who cheats.
Mhm.
However, I do think it's interesting to have a conversation about the state of the relationship that kind of laid the foundation for this opportunity to arise. I
Mhm.
think that, like, there's like three entities in a relationship: the two parties and the relationship itself. And
Mhm.
like, if the relationship itself, everything each party does or doesn't do affects the health of the relationship itself. And it's not if I get cheated on, it's not my fault, but there is something about that relationship that does not allow for full trust. It doesn't allow for communication. It doesn't
Mhm.
allow for fulfillment. I'm not saying like it's my fault. I'm just saying that that's just the truth.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
laid the groundwork for this thing to happen. And I
Yes.
think that saying that will really ruffle feathers because it'll really sound like I'm saying like it's your fault for not doing
It's not
something.
victim blaming, it's actually your desire to understand where accountability lies.
And I know it does lie with the person who cheated, but I'm saying
No,
like,
but both, right? The state of the
right,
relationship is a
exactly.
two-part responsibility,
It
and
always will be.
what you're alluding to, which I don't know if you realize it,
Mhm,
but at some point, if somebody is cheating on you, you are allowing it. If you know and you don't get yourself out of that relationship and nothing's changed, you are allowing it. And that bothers me because everybody plays their part, right?
yeah,
So if you are so obsessed with having a marriage that stays
mhm,
intact that you're willing to sacrifice your own personal standards,
yeah.
then like everybody needs a reality check.
It's like the video that you made about like the dog sitting on the nail and he's
Mhm.
howling, but he's not moving. It's like, I guess
Yeah.
it just doesn't hurt as bad. It's
Oh,
like, yeah,
that
that's the
makes
truth.
sense.
And this is where I'm saying like that selfishness is so important. I think about myself in that situation and I'm like, I will be damned if I ever stay. And because I'm just like, I am so adamant about putting myself first and being like content in my life and not having my peace disturbed, that if I ever find myself in this situation, like it's just not a second thought. Like, I'm just
I know.
not going to put up with this. I refuse. I just
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
imagine it.
And it's that type of like strength that I think that you modeling it to whoever is in your nearby vicinity, right? That's really important for young girls to be seeing that
Mhm.
you do not, compromise your wants and your desires for somebody other than you. Like
Yeah.
it's wild. But I know that our time is coming up. And I want to make sure that I thank you, Luna. You had the strength and the bravery to say your thoughts out loud on a very public platform. And they were chock full of wisdom and insight. And I think a value add to like humanity. So thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for being here and doing that and accepting my invite to come on here because, man, I have to know more about your career background.
Yeah. It's been a roller coaster. But yeah, thank you so much, Chelsea. This has been such a wonderful time. I really
Good. I'm
enjoyed speaking
glad.
to you.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking with you. You have a lot of powerful thoughts up there.
Thank you.
If you are the other woman in your relationship and you love this podcast, you would love the Other Women community. The Other Women community is a membership program designed to help other women just like you reclaim their relationship with themselves and heal from their affair. We provide a safe and supportive environment for you to open up and talk about your experiences. We give you the tools and resources you need to grow into an authentic, empowered individual. If you're ready to take the next step in your healing journey, head on over to theotherwomanandthewife.com/community to learn more about the membership and all it has to offer.